Hey everybody, welcome. It is Wendy Robbins, producer of The Marijuana Show, along with Karen Paul, and we produce Bud Camp. Bud Camp's like a mentor box for the cannabis industry. We teach health and wealth with experts in the industry, really to help you understand, how to navigate. And we keep them short. They're like 10 minutes long. So with no further ado, I want to introduce you to Carla Kraft. And Carla, we've got 5 questions that have been asked. And so I'm hoping that you will be able to answer them. Number 1, what is hemp and how is CBD oil made?
Well, hemp is, hello everyone.
Yeah.
Hi. Hemp is a sister plant to cannabis. She is grown in identical structure and creation from the ground up to the very top of her last bud. And the reason it's so wonderful is because we can use her medicinally, not just to have a great high from, which all of us who appreciate cannabis appreciate the THC. But for those who don't want the THC in the product, it's a wonderful side sister plant that can provide more healing than just what everybody thinks in the cannabis plant. So it is, my product particularly is processed through a distillation, which means separation. We separate the beautiful oil from the plant from all the undesirables. The undesirables are called the plant waxes, the plant chlorophyll, and the plant matter. All those things we do not need in the plant. Chlorophyll is very beneficial for your body, but just not in this format. It has to go through a different process. So hemp is wonderful because, excuse me, not only can we heal from the plant, but we can build with it. The male plant is what we use to build for the fiber, excuse me, and the female plant is what we use for the medicine. The male plant does seed, so we have to keep them separate. So a lot of farms are just male plants that are being seeded just to grow 25 feet tall and to turn into a very, very wonderful fiber that is one of the strongest fibers in the world.
Agreed. Thank you. Good answer. Next is, when someone buys hemp oil, what should they consider in buying a brand? I mean, for me, full spectrum is important. What's important to you?
Well, I tell everyone there's a multitude of things that you should know when you become interested in a cannabinoid product. Everybody overuses the word CBD. Well, CBD is more than just one compound. In that structure, there's 100. Those 100 cannabinoids have to all be in place, including the THC component. We have 0.1% THC in our product. And the reason why there has to be that much is so that we do have a full spectrum. Spectrum if you do a CO2 extraction, because CO2 removes some of the purities in the plant. It's a good extraction, it's clean, and it's healthy for you to consume, but it's a gaseous machine, which is bad for the environment. Takes up a lot of power to push those machines. So distillation is what we use for essential oils to preserve the integrity of the plant. So keeping all that integrity, we create what's called the full spectrum, is what you just said. Full spectrum is important so that you have one compound working with the other 99 in that full capacity of healing. So it's important to know where your product is grown. My product is grown on the western slope of Colorado for over 20 years in the same soil, completely organic. It's also important to know what it's grown with. So we grow with green manure, compost tea, and fish emulsion, all natural things. We use essential oils to spray the leaves if ever we need to, but we never run into any issues. We don't even have to amend the soil. The soil's so perfectly pH balanced. And the other thing is to make sure that you know what the strength of that product is. Just because it's grown organically doesn't mean it's strong. So our product is over 60% cannabinoid profile, one of the strongest oils that you find. I've tested 50 of them in my lifetime from being very young, and this happens to be one of the best without a THC component attached to it. The other thing is to know what the integrity of the company is that's behind the product. There's hundreds of companies out there, and they're people just thinking, okay, well, like in the big green rush with cannabis, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to buy some product from Europe and I'm going to throw it in a bottle and put a label on it and call it my company. Well, does that company represent you in your healing? Does that company know anything about your personal struggle that you're going through? Do they even care? Are they going to sit on the phone with you for an hour and talk about the fact that you've lost your husband, your son just died from a brain aneurysm, and you're severely depressed and don't want to live anymore, and you're 83 years old? Who's going to take that time to answer the questions that they have? You know, I'm one of those people that do that. And so I encourage anyone, whether you buy my product or not, that you know those things, and those are the things that you look for. If I go out and I buy a product from someone, I want to know that the person behind that beautiful plant that I'm partaking in was grown in organic soil, and I met the lady that, you know, massaged the roots and gave it all the love every day. That makes a difference to me. It may sound silly to other people, but to me, when it comes to treating my body healthy, I have to know what's going into it, and I have to know where it's coming from. It's important to me to know the story is fun. If you have a fun story that goes along with your mission, it makes it interesting for people to identify.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Can CBD oil help pets, and how? I actually know the answer to this because I used it on my pets, and it's a huge difference, but I really want to hear from you.
Absolutely. CBD oil for all living things is incredible. And the reason I say that is because every living thing on the planet has what's called an endocannabinoid system. Our endocannabinoid system is a receptor system. Endo meaning that you're receiving. And many plants on the planet have a cannabinoid system. Like helichrysum, for example, really high in CBG, which is a necessary cannabinoid in the cannabis and hemp plant that shrinks tumors. So people think THC is what shrinks the tumor. You have to have a high CBG component in order for that tumor to shrink with the THCA and THCV. So when you're treating animals and you're having an animal with a tumor, for example, putting it on topically in a concentrated format, but also giving the animal high doses to saturate the body so that we create balance, which is what is referred to as homeostasis, then we can start fighting against that disease that has created that tumor. We start with, food, water, environment, and then we attack the actual illness. And it is very, very helpful. I have seen great results. I have, matter of fact, a beautiful CBD product for animals, and the only difference between this format and the human format is in dosage. So they're both exactly the same strength. With pets, you would offer them 3 drops per every 20 pounds. And you wait 5 minutes to 10 minutes with an animal. With a human, up to 15 minutes, you get response very quickly. But for animals, they're like within a minute, they're responding. So if you have an animal that's sick, you wait up to 15 minutes and you're giving them those doses until they get to a point where they're feeling relaxed, and you know that you've hit that sweet spot, and you stay there every 4 to 6 hours, just like you would if you were taking a prescription medication, every 4 to 6 hours at that dosage so that you can stay in control of it for 7 days. We bring that intensity level down, and then we stay at a maintenance of 2 milliliters a day, once in the morning and once at night. Same with animals. You would give them whatever their needed dosage was. So it's very beneficial for all living things.
Yeah, I agree. I've used it on my has arthritis, and huge results. Really helped her out for a while. So, you had cancer and you used CBD oil to heal. Briefly, can you tell us, what that was like? And obviously you're not a doctor, so I want to let people know, as they're listening to the story, this is your experience, and if somebody is listening and they have cancer, they would check with their own doctor. Just a little preface.
Correct. Yeah. My own opinions reflect on my own experience. So I share those opinions and experiences with everyone, and they can take from whatever they need to and apply it if they like, ask questions if they want. I'm an open book. So I had implants for 18 years. And I went through 9 surgeries on my breast alone, with 3 implant surgeries and 3 explants. And in that 18 years, one of the surgeries I had for 14 years of it was textured implants. And I thought they were just fine. I could go into great detail of why I went through 3 surgeries, but let's just say the first one was a bad deal and I got an infection. and it created a lot of problems. I had to have reconstructive surgery done, and my ego was very strong at that time and very much in the forefront. So it was all about what I looked like. And I started getting sick 2 years down the road with these implants, which I was in a research study for 10 years. And with a renowned surgeon, did a beautiful job. I was very happy with him. I didn't know the dangers of the textured implants, but I got cancer as a result. So in 2016, I retired from the cannabis industry. I had injured myself at my last job in Humboldt County and detached the muscle from underneath my arm. I had been saturating heavily with some cannabis oil that really was not serving me at all. And just decided I'm going to stop. And I was in Colorado working a legitimate cannabis growing job for a big company there. And I got really sick and couldn't show up one day, and just called him. I said, I'm not going to be able to come back. I was consulting at the time, so I got to take care of myself. Well, in that process of time, my friend, who is the grower and processor of this beautiful oil that I have, he called me and said, come to Southern Colorado. I want you to check out the farm. Let's talk. So I went there, learned about the oil, learned about the family that's been growing it, and fell in love with the company, started my brand as a sister business to the company. I started on the oil December of 2016, not knowing I had cancer, but my right breast was inflamed with 700 cc's of fluid. It's called seroma. So it's created a capsule around the breast, which then had another capsule. With inside those two capsulations, there's a layer, and that layer of fluid is called seroma and created a cancer. So the cancer that I got was called anaplastic large cell lymphoma, and you only get it from textured implants, as we're finding out. And the textured implants have a polymer coating on them, which is plastic, and creates the breast. So in 2016, I started taking the oil in December, like a lot. I was taking probably 16 milliliters a day because I was so sick. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And by October of last year, I finally had the explant. And I didn't have any opiates, no antibiotics. I healed the first 24 hours with 12 milliliters every 4 hours of my oil. My husband was my nurse. He cared for me the whole time I laid in bed, and I just recovered. And what's so wonderful about this oil for recovery is that it starts working on a molecular level. It rebuilds the structure of the cells in the body. It attaches to all those signals going on between the brain receptor and the vital organ and cell receptor in the body, which are called CB1 and CB2 receptors. Those signals are like this. They're not in synergy. So when you're sick, they're all over the place. And when you take the oil at a high saturation dose, it starts aligning all that damage, even the nerve endings. I broke 17 bones in my body when I was 13, and I've been using cannabis ever since then. I've been growing it. I've been producing it and working in the business all of my life. And having that there to help me heal has been such a blessing. And I can't encourage people more than I do now to look into it, do your research, ask questions, find a great product, try it out before you have a surgery, add it to your doctor's regimen if you feel more comfortable. It works. If you trust in the plant and you trust in Mother Earth, it can heal you.
Agreed.
It did me.
Agreed.
I'm cancer-free.
Cancer-free. See, yay. And on that note, we'll celebrate. I'm really, really glad to hear that. It's funny. It's a friend of mine's birthday who did pass away in December, and she's the motivation for why we do these classes and why we do our show. And it's really to save lives. We just tell one story at a time, and I never know whose story can motivate someone to make a difference and to investigate and to, start researching. There's so much research out there. So if you're fear-based right now, you're listening to this, just start checking it out. Look at Google, look at, there's lots of different ways to check this out, and including this conversation. Carla, I want to thank you very, very much. Glad you're cancer-free. And on that note, I'm going to end our broadcast. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for telling the story. Appreciate it.